Hello, everyone, and welcome. Kerry here from Healing Humanity, the Power of a Proper Human Diet. Returning, my brother from another mother, Mitch, old Guy Carnivore. Mitch, how's it going?
It's going great, Kerry. If it was any better, it would be illegal, man. You know what I mean?
I love it. I have really been enjoying watching your content. I've been really busy. I feel kind of bad because you and I did a video together. I'm really bad with dates, but that was a while ago, right? Like
That's about 6 months or more.
Wow.
Yeah, a long time ago. Yeah.
Yeah. I've watched quite a few of your videos, but I'm usually watching it on TV where I don't have a chance to comment. But you've been putting out some really, really good content.
Thank you, man.
Been looking forward to chatting with you some more. So, yeah, we got a bunch of people jumping on. So, hey, if you're in the chat, let us know where you're from, what you're eating. We'll do a little carnivore roll call maybe. Looks like we got people jumping on still. I had bacon and eggs today. Nothing too exciting. What about you, Mitch? Eat anything good yet?
Well, I'm in the middle of another air fryer adventure. And I have 6 air fryers now. I don't know if you've been following this.
I saw your newest.
Yeah, so everybody's saying, how do you like it? How do you like it? And I hadn't even, as of yesterday, I hadn't even plugged the thing in yet. So, I mean, it looks good. Yeah, it's pretty, very pretty, shiny, it's built well. So I said this morning, I got up and I wanted to make that video with the wood plate and the big knives, the primal eating. So I had that knocked out by about 7 a.m. And I said, I better get busy on this air fryer thing. So I had nothing defrosted.
Oh no!
And I said, perfect. I said, I hardly use air fryers. I make chicken wings in them, sometimes some fish. And if I forget to defrost a steak to sous vide, I will put it frozen in these air fryers, and they do a pretty good job. I said, perfect. I'm going to make my first video today in this air fryer I haven't used yet, whose instruction book I hadn't read yet, whose controls I wasn't familiar with yet. I'm going to make a video and they can see me trying to figure out how this thing works and cook a steak, a ribeye from frozen. And man, it worked. It worked. Less than 30 minutes. 30 minutes, I had this big juicy ribeye on my wood plate with my big knife, and
living the life.
I'm telling you, man, it's good to be a carnivore.
Now, Mitch, on the air fryer, I caught a little bit of your video earlier. You got 6 air fryers now. Did you use the little built-in thermometer, or are you just an expert at this point where you don't even really need to use the internal thermometer reading?
I tried. I had this 6-in-1. The model before the 7-in-1, which is what I have now. And if it wasn't on sale like it was, I wouldn't have bought it because I really didn't need it. And the 6-in-1 has the thermometer, and I used it once, and I found it was a lot more complicated than just for the things I cooked, knowing what temperature and how many minutes. Like chicken wings, I know I cook them 375 degrees for 28 minutes. They come out perfect every time. You can't put a thermometer in a chicken wing. It doesn't work.
Right.
And I very rarely cook the steaks in those things, but they're terrific when you use them. And wasn't my style because that's not how I use an air fryer. So I have to feign ignorance.
Right.
On the thermometers.
I don't have quite a collection like you do. I think I have 3 air fryers now. And my favorite has been, I think I have the same one as you, the Ninja. I can't remember what it was called. It was the Ninja with the little switch on the top of it. Bill Knott told me about that one, and that's my go-to. It's so easy to clean up. That's the thing I like about it. It's easy to clean up. It's quick to use. I have another like big stainless steel one. It doesn't have any forever chemicals in it. It's really clean, but it's such a nightmare to clean that thing. Like you have to disassemble it all and take it all apart to clean it. So
sounds like the Cuisinart. I have one of those. It's a combination toaster, oven, air fryer. It's all stainless steel.
Yeah.
It's got racks and grids and trays and you have to reach down in there and to get up to where the thing is, the heating element, and the top is a nightmare. I stopped using it. It was just too much of a pain in the neck to clean. So, but I have 6 of them. I think maybe I'm probably outdone by Dante Ferrigno. I think he probably has more. And I got to do something. I keep thinking about having a giveaway or something, but every time I think I'm going to do that, I start reading the rules and the laws and the guidelines, and I say, no, this is just, they've made it way, way too complicated to do that. So I don't know what I'm going to do with them.
Yeah. I just recently, speaking of Dante Ferrigno, I recently got a Dreo, and I haven't used it yet. Do you have a Dreo, or have you gone down that road yet? No,
I never had that. I have a number of my viewers have left comments saying they've got the Dreo, and they all say they love it. I remember way back when he got his first one.
Yeah.
And it was a sponsored deal, I think. And at the time, back then, I think they were still having a few little problems. I'm sure they've got them ironed out now. But at the time, I saw something was wrong. It wasn't working exactly like it was supposed to. They were like the pre-production ones with the pre-production software. And I just stopped looking in that direction. And I don't use them enough to justify. That thing is like $400, isn't it? It's expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I can only do so much. I'll tell you what, all I need, to tell you the truth, all I need for my lifestyle, I need 1 carbon steel frying pan and a sous vide.
Right.
And that's it. I could cook everything that I would ever need to cook in either this 1 carbon steel frying pan or sous vide it, and then finish it in the carbon steel. But it's fun. I like gadgets.
Yeah, I'm the same way. And Dante's the one, speaking of Dante, man, he's inspired so many people on so many levels, but he's the one that inspired me to actually get an air fryer. I thought it was crazy. Like, I'm not going to ruin a steak in this little air fryer. And then I saw him cooking them from frozen, like you just mentioned. And I waited so long. I think I was like 6 months on Carnivore before I finally did it. And then I was like, well, that was dumb. Like, this is great, especially in winter in Wisconsin where I can't go out and use the grill. It comes out fantastic in the air fryer. And it's so simple too. Like, I don't have to put a thermometer in it. I know the exact time and settings just to get a perfect steak out of there. So,
and the fact that you can cook them frozen. So here we are, Curry, you and me, two carnivore, well, 1 carnivore legend and a wannabe legend. That's me. I'm the wannabe legend.
Switch it around, I'd say. Well, how long, Mitch, have you been carnivore now? I've
been carnivore for just a month shy of 2 years.
Wow. Coming up
2
on the
years. August
2-year anniversary.
August 1st, 2022 is when I guess I officially said, okay, no more keto, no more Brussels sprouts, no more broccoli. A decision that I don't regret, to tell you the truth. I know that the topic of the stream was supposed to be regrets, and I've been racking my brain.
It's a hard one, right?
What regrets do I? And the only regret that I could even think of was that I didn't find out about this sooner. And everybody, because I mentioned that in a video, and I got comments from everybody saying, me too. I wish, but we didn't know about it sooner.
Right. It's so funny you say that, Mitch, because that was my same thing. I was like really trying to come up with something to be fair, because we're always talking about the benefits of carnivore. And that just kept going in my head. Wish I would have found it sooner. Wish I would have found it a long time ago. The only other regret I have, which is a slight one, is, and I don't think you do this because I watch a lot of your videos. I'm bad with bacon. I'll overeat bacon, but it's not making me fat or hurting me in any way. But that's my only thing that's been kind of weird for me on carnivore is every now and then I'll start eating more and more bacon. And then I'm like, I need to chill on the bacon for a while. And then maybe I'll do lion diet for a little while. But that's like grasping at straws, trying to find a regret, really.
Well, you're going against one. I have a few key sayings that apply to carnivore, and you've just gone flying in the face of one of them, and that is there is no such thing as too much bacon.
Right.
It's a
Well,
fallacy. It doesn't exist. I can't see where that would hurt you. We know that nitrites and nitrates aren't bad for us. We know that the fat in bacon is more monounsaturated, all the good fats. Okay, we know that bacon is loaded with potassium and other vitamins and things that we need.
right.
It's that old stigma that we still have, and if you try to really analyze it, you could live probably on nothing but bacon. So enjoy, man. Pig out.
Mitch, we should do it. I totally agree with you too. I got to be careful how I state things too, because I mentioned this before on my channel. And people are like, "What's wrong with bacon?" I don't think there's anything wrong with it. It was becoming a problem in the family where like the girls would come out like, "I thought you made bacon." I'm like, "Yeah, I ate the whole." I ate the whole package myself, kind of thing. It was more along those lines, but that would actually be a fun challenge, like eating bacon for a week, carnivore surviving on bacon for a week. I would have no problem doing that for sure.
It sounds like one of these, videos. I ate 5 pounds of bacon a day for 30 days, and this is what happened to me.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, that's one of my favorite sayings. I've got a new favorite saying, and you know that I smoke cigars, right?
Right.
Okay, and I drink coffee, right?
Right.
And boy, do I catch heat for both of those things, and I throw it right back in most of their faces, and I make them go away. Just go away, unsubscribe, go away. These people who say, "Oh, you drink coffee. You're not a real carnivore. Oh, you smoke cigars. Don't you know how bad that is for you?" And so I came up with a slogan. I don't know if you've heard me say this slogan yet. It's for carnivore cigar smokers. It's their answer when somebody says, aren't you afraid that that's bad for you?" You say, "It's much healthier to smoke plants than to eat them."
Truth.
Yeah, it is true. And I haven't had too much pushback on that one yet either.
That's awesome. Well, I love sort of the sentiment behind your statement too. It's like, well, if you don't like this, then go. What is there, Mitch? About 1 billion other videos people could watch on YouTube. I don't try to be mean about it, but every now and then I'll get things like that on my channel. It's just like, I'm not forcing you to watch this. The thing I like to say to them too is when I get ridiculed for certain things they say or do is I'll just say, well, where can I watch your YouTube videos so I can learn how to do better? And inevitably every single time, well, I don't do
Yeah,
YouTube
they go away. They go. I told somebody the other day in a comment, I thanked him profusely for his creative criticism of what I was doing wrong. And I said, "Man, you sound like you know a lot about YouTube. Send me the name of your channel so that I can watch your videos and learn from you."
Mitch, I'm not even joking. I have said that same thing to people. I love that. I want to learn. Teach me. Like, where to go?
Teach me. Yeah.
Well,
But
this. Like, we're not complaining. I enjoy doing YouTube. I'm assuming you do too. You're pretty passionate about it. You've been doing a lot of videos.
I do. And I rant. Okay. I mean, I'm known for that. So did Dennis Miller. It's real. I mean, what comes out of my mouth, my opinions and my sentiments are real. My anger isn't. I don't want to use the word shtick because you know what that means. An act, because it does come from my heart. But so many people, believe it or not, find it entertaining. They love watching me go off on things.
Yeah.
And I do that on Monday morning. I have a rant. I smoke cigars in their face. I anything I can do that I think might offend somebody, I do it. And it's shtick. It's an act and it's a personality. And I found on YouTube, what else have I got to offer people? Think about it. I'm 77 years old. not really pretty like a young chick, you know.
Right.
I'm not a doctor or a research PhD. I can't offer that level of opinion, advice, and expertise like all the other guys do. And all that leaves, I think I know a lot. I'm convinced I have great insight into the whys of everything, and I have that to add. But other than that, and you're the same way, if we don't entertain people, if we're just another talking head, blah 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 blah, hour after hour after hour, saying the same thing over and over again, people will not tune in, and that's my act, let's say. And I go out of my way to be entertaining and be myself. So I'm certainly not the biggest YouTube channel in the world, but it's growing steadily, and I'm happy. Look, what else have I got to do? What am I going to do? Sit around and watch, TV all day long?
Right. Well, just to give you an outside perspective, the thing I enjoy watching you, and I think other people do as well, is you're getting the truth. That's rare these days. You turn on the news, you turn on social media, whatever. There's always a bias or something, but getting the truth and seeing you at 77 years young, walking the walk and thriving, where most people, Mitch, at 77 years old are not doing pull-ups and smoking cigars and going for walks and have the 6 air fryers like you do. I mean, that's the truth. Most people aren't even 77 years old, because what is the average life expectancy in the United States now? Like 73? It's going in the wrong direction.
It's for a male in America, 76.
76.
So that means that more than 50% of the people that were born in the year that I was are dead. More than 50%, including John McDougall.
Right.
John McDougall was born, I was born on May the 7th in 1947. McDougall was born about 10 days later in May of 1947. I was 10 years older than that guy. And I actually got a chance to see some pictures and things of his last year of life, and it wasn't pretty. Mm. And this is a guy, this is the amazing thing that I say, and I don't want to be cruel. I mean, I hope he rests in peace and all that, but he didn't hesitate to keep his mouth shut when it came to putting down everybody and their brother who wasn't one of these starch-eating vegans like he was.
Right.
He could be very nasty at times. He was a jock when he was young. You see the pictures of him when he was a young man. He was good looking, athletic, nice long hair. He was something. You see the pictures of me when I was a young man. I looked like the Pillsbury Doughboy. Mm. I was a nerd. I could never do any athletics. I was the kid running the projector. Okay? I mean, that was me. I was never popular in school, never part of any in-crowd or clique. The opposite of this guy, John McDougall. He took this particular path in life. I started and took the low-carb path in 1973 when Atkins had first written his book. So all my life I've been, even though I kept falling off of it because of carb addiction, and you know how that is, up and down, up and down, up and down, but always back to low carb, whereas he took the no meat, no animal products, no fat of any kind, just starchy carbohydrates. I have turned into more of a jock type of person with boundless energy, great health, good weight, and he died. So we crossed somewhere in the middle.
Right.
And to me, that's an incredible testimony for low carb and any version of low carb, all the way up to carnivore, and then eventually all the way to the lion diet. I think it's great testimony for that.
Yeah. Well, the cynics will say, Mitch, you're just an anecdote, but I wanted to hear from your perspective, Mitch, because since you were on my channel 6 months ago or so, I've also had I had Carnivore Ron on, who is a little bit older gentleman, not old, but a little bit older. But long story short, I've had so many comments on my channel. Like, this has blown my mind so many times from people in their 60s, 70s, 80s, thriving on carnivore or keto or proper human diet. I get and it warms my heart when I hear that, because I'm thinking, man, these people work their whole lives and they find carnivore at 70 or 75 or 65. But some of them too, they're like, I've been doing this for 5 years now. I'm like, where did you find out about this thing? They're watching Dr. Barry a couple of years ago or something like that. But do you get a lot of that on your channel?
I don't get many that are older than me. Got a few people chime in the chat and say, I'm 79, I'm 82. Haven't gotten any like, hi, I'm 113 years old. Haven't seen any of them. But there are a lot of people out there that were carnivores before anybody ever defined it.
Yeah.
There were a ton of people out there that and in small towns all over America. They don't know any other breakfast than bacon and eggs. They wouldn't know a bowl of cereal or any of that crap if it stared at them. They're farmers, they're ranchers, they're living like we're supposed to live, and they haven't lived in the big cities with a Starbucks and a 7-Eleven on every corner, and they thrive. And a lot of those people may be some of the people that we hear from and say, I've been eating this way for 10 years, 15 years, and yeah, you would certainly benefit from it, even though, it's like saying, well, 5 years ago I couldn't even spell carnivore. Now I are one.
Right.
What you call it doesn't matter. The cavemen were carnivores too.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, I think we're gonna find a lot of that, and I think there may be a lot of people who are hearing about it on social media from other people who look up and say, "Damn, that's what I do.
Right.
I'm a carnivore. I had no idea."
It's so funny, Mitch, because one of the first people we filmed for the documentary, second person, was Rancher Maggie up in Canada. She's 83 now. And I found her through Dr. Chafee. He introduced me. He spent like a week out there with her. She had no idea what carnivore was until she watched Dr. Chafee's videos. And she was like, I guess I'm a carnivore then, because this is what I do. I eat meat. I never liked vegetables. And for 65 years, she hasn't had any vegetables. She hasn't had any grain. She hasn't had any sugar. It's just beef, butter, bacon, eggs, fresh off the farm. And she flexed for us. She could pick me up at 83 years old. She could carry me across the field, no problem. She's amazing. But her brain, I felt like I was talking to like a teenager. It was crazy. I had to keep reminding myself, this is an 83-year-old person. But just like you said, she didn't even know what carnivore was. There wasn't that definition for her. The other thing too, kind of crazy, this just happened yesterday. I'm stocking up for 4th of July. I went to my neighbor. My neighbor's a 6th-generation farmer. I know kind of his story, but I started talking to him more. And I'm like, he knows I'm into this whole carnivore thing. And he's like, well, we're pretty much carnivore. We only eat meat off of the farm. They do a little bit of vegetables here or there, but they're like very strategic about them, and they know how to prepare them to get rid of toxins. They don't have pesticides and glyphosate all over them. But the majority of their diet is meat and eggs and raw dairy, raw milk. And this guy just happens to be my neighbor. He's been living there the whole time. So he doesn't fit the definition of carnivore, but I would define him as a proper human. He's pretty darn close to it. I think there's a lot of people out there probably like that.
Well, carnivore isn't all that different from a ketovore.
Right.
A ketovore is a carnivore that eats a little broccoli, and maybe some Brussels sprouts. Some things that I never liked anyway. It was no big deal for me the tough part for me, being a carb addict, was giving up the sugar. Yeah. And, I finally figured out how to do that, and I did it for a year, and everything was working. And, it's been less than a year since I started being old Guy Carnivore.
Right.
it was August the 10th, I think, of last year, where I put my first video out. And that video was named, I'll Start the Diet Again on Monday.
See, that's why we're on the same wavelength, because I have said that statement a million times. And then, Mitch, you know what happens on Monday, right? You look and you're like, oh, the end of the month, that's in 4 days.
Oh,
I'll do it at
God,
the end of the
yeah.
month. Oh, New Year's
Yeah.
resolution, and you just keep pushing it out. Done
You
it a million
do.
times.
And I learned, and that's where I think my strange way of thinking has paid off for me, is that I figured out where all that stuff comes from an evolutionary standpoint and from a physiological standpoint, is why we have these addictions. And I talk about that a lot on my channel. Why we get addicted, how at one point in our history that was a survival necessity, which drove us to gorge on sugar when we found it, because it was a survival food that gave us short-term energy. So those ancestors of ours, who when they found a wild berry bush or some tubers, and the hunt hadn't gone well, these people that had the inclination to eat the sugar were the ones that lived, and those traits got passed on. And what happened was they became refined. And eventually it was those whose hunger didn't get satiated from sugar, causing them to gorge and eat more and more sugar, were the ones that ended up converting more sugar to fat, storing it away, gave them a survival advantage, and that trait. So we are descendants of the most efficient sugar eaters and fat storers that ever lived, because that's how we got here. Now, all of a sudden, we're plunged into, a swimming pool full of Hershey's syrup. I mean, sugar everywhere.
Right.
Everywhere, in quantities we were never supposed to eat. It's addictive because our subconscious mind panics when we're running low. If there's no fat stores, it panics. And it creates those excuses for us, Curry. It creates in our mind and allows us to rationalize to ourselves. And we've all done it, and it's a very real thing. And you just went right down the litany of it. I promise myself I am not going to eat that. Well, one last time. It's been a stressful day. I really need to calm down. Just this. What day is it? It's the 21st of the month, and then it turns out to be the first of the year. And on one day, the first of the year, you go on that diet, and it isn't till later that same day where your subconscious decides, no, we need sugar.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as willpower. I fully and totally believe it.
I agree. Yeah, you're absolutely right, too. The whole thing with sugar, too, is it's been such a scarce thing if you look at humanity since the start of time, until this little sliver of time right now, the standard American diet or science experiment or whatever we're doing right now, like you said, is everywhere. It's in everything. There's 1,000 names for sugar. Just even in like a soda, humans were never meant to consume that amount of liquid sugar. It's like mainlining it into your veins, drinking it. It's just insane.
We figured out a way to mainline every poison known to man. We now know, I mean, all of us on Carnivore should know, if you've listened to Anthony Chafee enough, then you know that plants are trying to kill you. Now, that's not a rational statement when you think about it, because plants don't have brains and they don't think, and they don't try to do anything. They have evolved defense mechanisms to keep themselves from being eaten, because that's what natural selection means. If you don't have those mechanisms, you get eaten. End of the line for your family tree. If for some reason you develop a mechanism that keeps you from getting eaten, then that mechanism is passed forward. And over eons of time, hundreds of millions of years, these plants have developed poisons, or they would not have survived and there'd be no plants. So now we got all these poisonous plants that people don't realize. They just don't realize. They know which plants will kill them. They know which plants not to eat. They know how to stay out of the poison ivy. Did they ever stop to think why poison ivy is even alive today? Because the animals that strayed in that might have wanted to eat it learned better and left it alone. And the poisons in these plants attack our ability to absorb nutrients. They're the lectins. And I watch Chafee and I hear this, and everybody hears it, and we know that these plants are poisonous. So what do? It's not bad enough that we're going to eat a half a pound of spinach in a salad because spinach is loaded with oxalates. But no, we invent the juicer.
Yeah, mainline it.
And we take 10 times the poison that you would get in a salad and condense it down into something that we call a green smoothie. And then not only do we have those green smoothies, we have the fruit smoothies. So, it's kind of tough to eat 3 apples, 5 bananas,
yeah,
and a half a pound of blueberries. But magic, voila. I can condense that all down into 16 ounces of turbo sugar.
Yeah.
And because of the lunatic people that make the rules, I can put a big label on it that says healthy.
Right? I was just going to say that. That's the craziest thing. You're mainlining sugar or spinach oxalates, but we've also convinced ourselves, no, this juicing thing's good for you. There's like a documentary on it. We're actually convinced ourselves that it's a better way to do it. It's just crazy. The plant thing too, if you just use common sense, most plants you can't just go out in the wild and eat. There's a reason for that. But for people that can't wrap their brain around Dr. Chafee, plants are trying to kill you. The other part of it too is when you look at plants, the pesticides, the glyphosate, the pesticides have forever chemicals in them. People are like, well, I rinsed it off. It's permeated in there. I've seen so many videos too where they'll take like strawberries or something. They'll wash it off and then they'll juice it. There's enough pesticides left in there to reuse it on the whole crop. And people are ingesting this. That just gets a whole pass too, because that strawberry is just so good for you that you can poison yourself a little bit with it and outweigh those apparently.
Most of it is propaganda.
Yeah.
And it all comes down to somebody's trying to sell something. You
Right.
remember Jack LaLanne? Remember Jack LaLanne? Jack LaLanne must have had a big chunk of stock in the company that made the juicers because that was his big thing. And because he was so healthy, they used him to convince people that this was a very healthy way to do things. Now, whether Jack LaLanne was drinking tons of this juice or not, we'll never know. Most people are do what I say, not what I do.
Yeah.
So you just don't know. You don't know. There's only one thing I know for sure, and that is I don't think Sean Baker eats anything but ribeyes. Okay, I mean, because he's in front of a camera all day, every day, doing nothing but eating ribeyes. So unless you see something with your own eyes, I've learned take it all with a grain of sand and look for the motives and the agenda of whoever it is that's trying to convince you what they're trying to convince you. I need things to make sense.
Right.
They have to make sense. And that's why I love this carnivore thing. There's nothing about it that just doesn't make sense. It every piece of the puzzle just fits together.
Yeah. Well, that's one thing that's frustrating for me on the flip side. It all makes sense. It works so well. I'm going on a year and a half or something now. I'm not even sure where I'm at now, but it's literally the easiest thing in the world for me. I don't even think about it anymore. But then I see so many people in the world suffering. I'm doing this documentary. We're interviewing people, but like friends and family you see as well. And they always say the same thing. I could never do what you're doing. And it's so frustrating because they're addicted to sugar. I get it. But I'm like, on the flip side, it's the easiest thing in the world. Like I'm not even thinking about this and you could never do it. And you see all these people suffering in the world. So
It's true. It's true. And I look back at myself 5 years ago. I say this in a lot of my videos and to people I talk to. I say, I believe it because it's real. I mean, I can't say I don't believe the benefits because the benefits are real. But I do believe when I say, if you'd have told me this was even possible 5 years ago, I would have told you were out of your mind. What have you been smoking? And
Right.
that I really believe. And that's the problem is your whole entire life, you're indoctrinated.
Yeah.
You're indoctrinated with everything, with rules. We got more rules for things than you can imagine. There's rules for everything, and we have to follow the rules. And there's usually an agenda behind most of those rules. Somebody's making money somewhere. Somebody wants power, wants to control something. So everything is agenda driven anymore. We got all these rules and and this is what it's gotten to be. It's been going on for 50, 60, 70 years. It's been 1977 when the first nutritional guidelines came out of the U.S. government, but it was 20 years before that when Ansel Keys started harping on this cholesterol is going to kill you, saturated fat's going to kill you. The sugar industry and the medical profession wasn't evil. It wasn't like a big conspiracy of a bunch of, men in Davos flying in on their private jets around a big wooden table in what looks like an old castle right out of a James Bond movie. That's not how it happened. It happened because human beings are opportunists. That's who we are. That's capitalism. That's the American dream. You see an opportunity, you grab it. So here we had, back in those days, we had the tobacco companies. This is a little 5-minute story, okay? And this is all the truth. I'm old. I watched it happen.
Yeah.
Later on, I figured out, wait a minute. This wasn't an accident. This was planned out like a football game. So we had the tobacco companies. They had scientists whose job it was, because we had figured out addiction. So the scientists at the tobacco company who had a job to make their cigarettes more and more addictive. Because after all, what better way to guarantee your future business than to fix it so your customers can't live without your product? That's addiction. The alcohol industry works that way. The tobacco industry works that way. Certainly the drug cartels work that way. And people get so addicted that they're stealing their mother's jewelry to run to the pawn shop to get another fix. So here you have all these tobacco companies, and people started getting a little upset with them. And it started to go out of favor, all this smoking stuff. Because what they were doing, they weren't happy just to sell cigarettes to 21-year-olds. No, we need to get children smoking cigarettes. We need to start campaigns. We need to start campaigns with cartoon characters like Joe Camel. And and they went after the kids. And that's when the sentiment turned against them. The kids were already smoking. I was in elementary school and I wasn't smoking, but the kids were smoking already. They were 11 years old. But no, that wasn't even young enough. So politics being what it was, there became an anti-tobacco, anti-cigarette sentiment. And the politicians took notice of this, but so did the tobacco companies, and so did the food companies who were learning how addictive sugar was. And an opportunity came up for the tobacco companies to wake up and say to themselves, you know, we're in the wrong business. We're killing ourselves to sell our tobacco to what is a limited audience when these food companies are selling their sugar to everybody, including children, including infants. We are in the wrong business. And I think that they stopped fighting. They stopped fighting the laws against tobacco. They stopped fighting the laws against advertising cigarettes. They buried the Marlboro Man. And they bought up the food companies. Curry, they bought the food companies. And the food companies today are owned by the tobacco companies. And the tobacco companies immediately sent those same scientists that knew addiction and knew all that. They were experts. And they went to work on the food. And they made it more and more addictive. And they could sell it to children. Because sugar is a treat for kids. And they went back about as far as they could when they turned the baby formula into sugar and seed oils. So now they got them from infancy with the baby formula. They're addicted before they're 1 year old. Before they're even weaned on a solid food, they're already sugar addicts. And in the nursing home on the way out, they sell them the Ensure, which is chocolate-flavored baby formula. It's chocolate-flavored sugar and seed oil.
Cradle to grave.
And cradle to grave. And in between, they got a 7-Eleven on every corner. They got 100 metric tons of crap in every Sam's Club, in every Costco, in every supermarket, and in every office supply store, in every drugstore, a place you're supposed to go for healthy stuff. It's all candy and ice cream and snacks and garbage now, and a few Band-Aids. It's crazy. Problem we have is we're living in a country that is just completely addicted. And when you're that addicted, the thought of living without that thing is why you run into people that just don't understand. They don't want to hear it. They give you a hard time. That was a terribly long explanation of why what you said is absolutely true.
No, it was a good one, though. It's a good conversation because that's one of the things that drives me insane is you go down the grocery store aisle and you see all the cartoon characters on cereal boxes, and we're getting kids addicted early. And I've thought about this before, but your explanation makes perfect sense because I was wondering, like, what's happening with sugar is exactly what happened with cigarettes. With cigarettes, they knew that people were dying, and they still, with that knowledge, people are getting cancer, they're dying of cigarettes. With that knowledge, they still decided to market it to children. Marlboro Man, all that stuff, like you said. So, but the same thing is happening with sugar. So it makes perfect sense. It's the same companies.
It wasn't started. It didn't happen as a well laid out plan. It was greedy people seeing an opportunity, waking up and saying, "Wait a minute, time out here, time out here. Look what the food companies are doing. They're doing what we wanted to do. They're selling their addictive crap to kids. We're in the wrong business." That was an opportunity that somebody just finally woke up to. And then, to really screw things up, you had the influence from the religious aspect. And religion is so hard. You can't talk down religion. You can't talk about religion. People will, want to hang you if you talk about religion. But it's very well documented the part that the Seventh-day Adventists had way back in the late 1800s in the vegetarian movement and the invention of cereals and John Kellogg and the Battle Creek Sanitarium and all of those things, and that influence on politicians and that influence on people like Ansel Keys, who were bent on proving that it was the meat that was killing you. And you know that story. You have to. Yeah. Of Ellen G. White, who hurt her head, was in a coma for a long time, and when she finally woke up, she was convinced that she had had 2,000 conversations with God, telling her that men shouldn't eat meat because it gave them sexual thoughts and made them sin. And that men should eat, people should eat vegetables and not meat. And I don't know how many people actually know this. If you watch Nina Teicholz and Gary Taubes and some of those journalists that have really researched this stuff, they've got all the facts. John Kellogg was like 17 years old when he hooked up with Ellen White, because she was compiling memoirs of her conversations with God and putting them into a book. And she hired this young kid, John Kellogg, to help her edit the book. He became firmly entrenched in what initially became the Seventh-day Adventist Church, because this was back at the time of the formation of that. And Ellen G. White was one of the primary movers of that. And they sent John Kellogg to medical school and paid for it. The Seventh-day Adventists did. And when he became a doctor, the Seventh-day Adventists bought this sanitarium at Battle Creek and installed Dr. John Harvey Kellogg as the head of the sanitarium, where he developed programs to rid men of the evil sexual thoughts caused by meat, to switch to put people on these plant-based diets, to concentrate on what color and how solid their stools were as the ultimate indicator of health. And the Seventh-day Adventists have since gone on to be the largest healthcare system in the world, the Advent healthcare system. They have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of universities teaching medicine. They have hospitals and clinics everywhere in all the countries. They are on the board of directors of every food company, of every pharmaceutical company. They sit on every government panel that decides dietary guidelines, and they are pushing the vegetarian agenda, and nobody even knows it. Nobody even realizes it. And if you talk about it, no, shouldn't talk about religion. You're not allowed, It's crazy. But you have that influence that was kind of planned out like a football game from day one, coinciding with all the opportunism and profit that these people saw. And it came together like that perfect storm, that we all hear about. It was that perfect storm.
Yeah.
And what we have right now is something that nobody even thinks is a problem. That's how wildly it's become accepted. And
that's the third thing I was going to say too. That's the other part that makes the perfect storm is we're so myopic as humans. We're so like, well, this is just the way it's always been. And when you're on the sugar and the carbs, you're lethargic, you're brain fogged, you're fatigued, and you just go along to get along. You just, this is just the way it's always been, sort of thing. So it's all of these things coming together. That's one of the craziest things with all this. Like this whole documentary I'm doing and everything is for people that have major health issues, but more so now, I'm just worried about all of the humans in the world addicted to sugar and carbs that have that brain fog and that they're lethargic and they're barely going along to get along. They're doing the bare minimum and they're just they go with the flow of things. Well, that's just the way it's always been. It's hard to explain to people that that's not the way it's always been. That's the way it's always been for you. And your life is just this little tiny fraction of time throughout humanity. During this little fraction of time is when all this craziness is happening with sugar and seed oils and processed foods. But since the beginning of time, it hasn't been that way. But it seems normal to us. I think humans, we love these routines or whatever because we're so brain fogged and fatigued that we just kind of becomes a social norm. Sugar's not that bad. You're overreacting. But then you look around in the world and you see how sick people really are right now. It's hard to wrap your brain around that just being kind of a normal thing.
But they don't stop. See, they don't stop with the anti-meat propaganda.
Yeah.
They've taken the dirtiest tricks from politics, and they just make stuff up and lie about it. just to perpetuate what they're doing.
Yes.
You wonder who's at the top of all this. Is it the Bill Gateses? Because what's happened to us when you look at the state that our world is in right now, and the state that the human race is, and how quickly the population of the globe went from 1 billion people to 10 billion people that are all eating, all have to eat. We're at a point right now, you know what circling the drain looks like? It's like going into a black hole. You reach a point where I don't care who you are, how strong you are, you're past the point that you can fight and get out. You're going down the drain. And I'm terribly afraid that if we're not already at that point, we're going to be there very, very soon. And that point would be mass economic collapse and starvation. Now, this is not the happy kind of stuff you want to talk about on a live stream. You want to joke and have fun. I love to have fun. But when you think about it realistically, without all those grains and sugars and carbs and crap and manufactured food, half the human population would starve to death now. There simply isn't enough meat and real food to feed anywhere near the people that we have. So we've created this problem, and there are people that want to depopulate the planet. And, we tend to think that, well, maybe these people are the ones that are at the head of this nonsense that's going on. Maybe they want us to become sick and die sooner before the food runs out or before we stop it. So we can't just outlaw processed foods. The push is still to create more and more of them. That's why the push for fake meat and all that other stuff. Okay. So some of us, our survivalist tendencies come out, and we buy land and we build underground bunkers and we raise animals and we start putting away but that's not going to be any world I'd want to live in if it all happened. If the rest of the human race was coming after me, it'd be like, the movie The Walking Dead. Who wants to even live that way? I rack my brain constantly trying to figure out, is there a solution? And who am I? Who am I? I'm some little piss-ass 77-year-old that nobody cares about in this, I'm a nobody. I have no influence, no power, no nothing. I got a tiny little YouTube channel, and I do a live stream and 100 or 150 people watch me, have a football game, 85,000 people go to the football game. When I think about, I've attracted 100 people, there's guys standing in soapboxes in parks that attract more people than that. This is not a position of influence or power, unfortunately. You're doing a great thing with this movie. Because you have the potential to reach a lot more people. Ken Berry's doing great things, and he's always said that. He said, when I had my medical practice, I could maybe see 30, 40 patients a week. Now I'm reaching tens of thousands of people. I do this because I can't do anything else. I can't fix the main problem, but I can get the word out to some people who fix their lives, hoping that whatever makes something go viral will happen somewhere along the way. When a certain number of people finally start to get the word, it'll start to spread.
Right.
And so we do what we do, and it's fun. It's something that I feel good. I feel good about doing, and I have no friends. All my friends are dead. Every friend I ever had that was a real friend of mine is gone. 2 of them were vegans. We used to go. We flew our model airplanes. We'd go all over the country to these meets, and we'd eat in a lot of restaurants. And I'd be eating meat. They'd be eating, hummus and crap like that. And I'd always get a lecture. Always. Here comes the lecture. Mitch, you shouldn't eat the hamburgers. You shouldn't eat the steaks. That red meat's no good for you. It's going to give you this, that, and the other. Well, they all died. And they were younger than me when they died. And I'm still here. I don't feel good about that. I don't feel good about. I didn't even know at the time that what I was doing was actually the provably right thing to do.
Right.
I happen to enjoy it. So, it is. It is what it is, Kerry. Uh-oh.
And
Oh, there you go.
and the thing too is the ripple effect with carnivore seems crazy. So you're inspiring, people are watching your channel, they're saying Mitch can do it, they do it, and then people see that person getting healthier and thriving, and they're like, what are they doing? And then it starts spreading that way. I feel like I'm trying to look on the positive side, because I agree with everything you're talking about now. It's scary what's going on in the future. I get a lot of people that say that on my channel too. They're like, if everyone went carnivore, everything would collapse. I agree with that, but then on the flip side, everyone's not going to go carnivore at this instant. So my only hope is maybe it slowly happens and we can build up to it. Like my neighbor I mentioned, 6th-generation farmer, the guy's passion, his only goal in life is raising beef cows. He loves it. It's his passion in life. And if we could just support more independent farmers like that, but I'm scared because I'm like, if this guy stops doing it, this next generation isn't going to pick it up. Like these guys are so underappreciated, underpaid, undervalued. But I'm hoping that it comes to some sort of critical mass, like you said. It's Dr.
Well, I think
thinking about it and the ripple effect, and
that's when the opportunists will step in, because as long as if there's a need for something, I don't care what it is. There's a need for something. Everybody will scramble to come up with what will fill that need and sell it so they can sell it. Now, you hope that they don't screw it up in the process. In other words, figure out how to raise a cow that's poisonous or something like that. But if all of a sudden, I mean, you have to think about this. If 500 people stormed Sam's Club every morning at 8 o'clock when they first opened and cleaned out the beef counters and demanded to see the manager and said, we need more meat, we need more meat, we need more meat. How long would it take for Walmart, who is Sam's Club, to start setting up more and more supply if the demand is there? So it's going to start out slowly. It's going to start out one carnivore at a time, and the word is eventually going to get out. It might take years, it might take generations, but sooner or later, we're going to be the only ones left still alive because we've outlived the rest of them. We're healthier.
Yeah. Well, it seems like people will only make this change out of desperation and in some cases inspiration. But on the desperation side, man, I try not to be too dramatic about it, but I think I see more clearly now as carnivore. I'm looking around in the world right now. It is getting so bad out there. And like, Mitch, I was so unhealthy. I was 100 pounds heavier than I am right now at my worst. Lost some of that through keto, most of it on carnivore, but I was so unhealthy. But I ate pretty bad. But this next generation, like I see my daughters and their peers, they're going to Starbucks and they're just mainlining the sugar drinks and I ate processed food. This next generation is ultra processed food. So I just get the feeling like it's going to come like, whoa, what is going on now? We're just type 2 diabetes, cancer rates. It's all just going through the roof right now. It seems like it's about to explode. Like,
well, and it seems like the biggest push is by the drug companies to find the magic drug that makes the problem a little bit worse, like Ozempic.
Yeah.
I mean, it may have problems and it may have side effects, but it's a drug that is mimicking the GLP-1 agonist. That is what happens to you when you eat carnivore. So I don't recommend it to anybody, but it's fabulously expensive. And maybe there is a magic drug that you'll be able to take and pig out on addictive foods till, I wanted to say till the cows come home, but that would have been a bad, bad example. I don't know. You never know. You can't predict anything. There's too many players involved. You can't predict any. I remember over the course of my life, so many similar things have happened. Things came along, problems were created. I'll use light bulbs as an example. Okay? You remember there used to be incandescent light bulbs.
Yeah.
They were hot as hell, used a lot of electricity. You had 100 watts, 60 watt, 150 watt, three ways. Remember them?
Yeah.
And because of the energy usage, it became politically incorrect to be burning these things. So somebody came up with the fluorescent light bulb, which looked like a light bulb, except it had that little curly thing. But the light was white. It was a horrible light. It was uncomfortable. It wasn't warm. Sometimes they flickered before they lit up. They were horrible. But they were making laws then. They started to actually make laws saying incandescent light bulbs are illegal. And people started protesting and hoarding incandescent light bulbs so they would still have them when you couldn't buy them anymore. Okay? And everybody thought, we're doomed. We're doomed. We're all going to go blind because they're going to force us to be in places with this horrible light from these terrible light bulbs when we all just want incandescent light, which is what we're used to. Well, then somebody invented the LED light, and they could do anything with it. It used almost no electricity. It could make any color of the rainbow, so you could make it any shade of white that you wanted. You could dim it, you could make it brighter, you could remote control it with your cell phone. And now, and it uses 1/50th of the amount of electricity that the incandescent light bulbs use. And nobody remembers or even gives a shit about the fact that incandescent light bulbs were banned.
Right.
The world came, and the people in the world saw the opportunities, invented what was necessary to fill the gap. And now everybody doesn't give it a second thought anymore. They just buy LED light bulbs.
Right.
You can only hope that whatever problem we are eventually going to fall into, that somebody will ride in on a white horse like that with the answer. If not, you and I won't be around at that time anyway.
Right.
Nothing we can do. And in the meantime, we just do the best we can, man. And try to get through the day without wanting to kill any of these commenters that leave the most absurd, moronic shit
Right.
on our channels.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Mitch, I have a question for you. So you're almost 2 years on Carnivore now. Where do you think you'd be right now had you never found Carnivore?
I'd still probably be keto.
Yeah.
I'd still be keto. I'd either be on the way up or on the way down because I never stayed down. See, that was the problem. Addictive substances are easy to use as rewards. You can reward a junkie with a fix. They'll do anything for you for that reward. You can get a kid to do anything for a sweet treat. It's a reward. That's the whole meaning of addiction. You get that dopamine rush. It's pleasure. It's what we strive for. So what happens is you work hard, you get disgusted with yourself because you start looking like a blimp when you look in the mirror. You put your foot down finally, you get motivated, you go on this diet. After a while, it becomes easier because once you get off the sugar, the cravings get less and less. But then you start to get down to your weight, you're doing pretty good. And this is what happened to me. And then you hit your goal weight, which is something that I've basically convinced that is a thing that should be outlawed. There should be no such thing as a goal weight because all that does is just get you in trouble. Because when you hit the goal weight, all bets are off in most cases. And that's where you start to go wrong. Oh, man, I just dieted for a year. I promised myself the minute I hit my goal weight, I was going to take one solid week and binge on everything that I wasn't allowed to eat. And then I'll get back to healthy eating again.
Been there.
And how long was it before you actually got back to the healthy eating? It was 5 months later when you gained back 100 pounds, you know? And that's because you had a goal weight and a reward waiting for you when you hit it. That cannot be how you live your life. And I was living my whole entire life that way and never realized it. That's why I tell people, forget about the fact that you even have a scale. What do you care what you weigh? You're going to weigh what you weigh. If you're eating the right foods, you're going to weigh what you weigh. And if you're not happy with what you weigh, there's nothing more you can do about it anyway, except starting to cut stuff off your body, like your arms and your legs. You cannot, if you are eating the right diet and the healthy foods and eating the right balance of fat to protein and the right amount of energy every day, you can't do anything to make weight come off or put weight on. Your weight will normalize to whatever your body thinks it needs to be for whatever conditions that you're living in. And the fact that people think, well, I'll just eat a little bit less. No, that doesn't work. That slows down your metabolism. That screws up all kinds. Well, I'll eat more fat and less no. Everything you do that deviates from the best appropriate mix of foods and amount of foods gets you off of the top of the epitome of health, and you start going down, and yeah, you may lose a few pounds, but you're going to pay the price for it. That's why we can't, and we focus on weight. You ask 999, you ask 1,000 people, why are you on a diet? 999 of them will say, oh man, I got to lose some weight.
Yeah.
There may be one person that says, I think maybe I'll feel better. But it's all about weight. We're a society that has completely focused on our physical appearance, which is a natural thing to do because we all, and I know I get a little crude sometimes and I don't know if it's appropriate, but you know, we're all out there in this world trying to, you know, find love and mates, and we want to look good. And usually it's for some romantic reason. We want to look good. We want to look thin. And then what do? We put up examples everywhere of what good really looks like. And we've got supermodels, and we've got jock athletes and bodybuilders and, you know, gyms. You know, we got all these. This is what you need to look like. Fat chance. I could never look like that. You know, most women could never look like that. So you try harder to live up to their standards of what so-called good looking is and what the right weight for you is. And you make, you know, one Hail Mary after another, trying to figure out how to get there quickly because, you know, I don't have the patience to let this take 2 years. I need to fix this now. I know it took 40 years to get this way, but you expect me to wait 3 months before I actually start, you know, get some results from this? We're not like that. We're not conditioned like that. But I tell people, you got one job. We've talked about this. You got one thing to be concerned about when you start a carnivore diet, and that is to become fat adapted. And the only way you do that is by eating, and eating a lot. Some people call it priming. See how many calories you can stuff in your face per day. Can you eat 6,000, 8,000, 10,000 calories a day? You may have to, so that those cravings don't throw you off. Are you going to lose weight? Probably not. Does it matter? No. Don't think about weight. You have to convince people that they're not on this diet to get pretty and skinny. They're on this diet to fix all of their machinery and put it back in the condition that it's meant to be running in. And interestingly enough, once you get that fixed, all that other stuff that you think you can control ends up being controlled properly. And I couldn't believe it. You lost 100 pounds, over 100 pounds.
Since my heaviest, some of that was on keto, but most of it was on carnivore. And yeah, I've had people, because they watch my YouTube channel. I've been doing YouTube for like 9 years, and they're like, Carrie, I saw you 6 years ago. You weren't that big. And I always tell them, look at the next video like 4 months later, because I yo-yoed up and down for years. But yeah, actually, I get the haters. You get some of the comments too. I've had a couple people say that, oh, there's no way you were 262. It's in my medical records, and I'm willing to show it to anybody. I was at the doctor's office. They weighed me, and I was like, oh, my God, I got this bad, 262. And, yeah, at my lightest, I was 157, so like 105. I'm right around like 168 or something like that, right, is kind of where I stay at now. But most of that was on carnivore, a little bit keto, but I did the same thing you did. I would do keto for a little while with the big reward at the end. Or people would tell me, or I would tell myself, get to that goal weight, and then you can just go back to moderation, which is a word.
I love that.
hate that word. So that word is responsible for so much destruction.
Oh my God.
Yo-yo dieting, because they get to that goal weight, and then they're going to go back to moderation, which means they're going to eat some more sugar and carbs, and then they're going to gain all the weight back, and then they're going to go through the whole process over and over again. People always ask me, they're like, I'm so strict on carnivore. I haven't cheated. I'm over a year now. I've never cheated on carnivore. I'm not shaming anyone, but I did on keto all the time. And one time, my wife Jen and I, we did keto for a long time, really, really strict. And I didn't get down this low, but I think I lost like 60 pounds. And there's a picture of me and my wife. And I remember when we took that picture, thinking in my head, I'm never gaining this weight back. And I went to moderation, and it was like 4 months later, I was fatter than I'd ever been my entire life. And so I'm the biggest thing, you said this, Mitch, too, for anyone, there's 507 people on here now. If you're new, the biggest thing that's helped me, and I think Mitch too, probably, is admitting that I was addicted to sugar, and sugar is one of the most addictive drugs in the world, and I cannot moderate an addiction to sugar. That was my big difference between keto and carnivore as well. I'd try to get 20 carbs. Most of those carbs, they convert to glucose in the body anyway, so I could never moderate it, but that was the big kind of turning point for me. So I don't have the cravings anymore. Once you get over that addiction, I feel bad for people that start carnivore and they're still doing, like, I have a little bit of berries on the weekend, or diet soda, or artificial sweeteners or something, and then they still have those cravings over and over again.
Yeah, you trigger. You know who I just noticed? I told you about Jonathan, Bags Pack Family. Remember I told you about him?
Yeah.
He's in the chat. He called us.
Hey.
He called us the dream team, you and me. At any rate, he's moving. I told you, he's moving. He's on to Whistler, Alaska. He's going to be Bill Knott's neighbor. What a small! And he stopped by to see me here in Florida on his way through. He brought me some cigars. He's my kind of guy. Hi, that's Jonathan. So cool. How are you? Good to see you.
Yeah, so Jonathan, that's awesome. I'd love to meet sometime. Maybe at the end of the summer, my daughter Emma and I are going to Wasilla again. I don't know if he's going to be out there that soon, but we're going to be filming Bill 1 year on Carnivore.
Wow.
I can't believe it's been 1 year already.
I know he's going to be coming pretty close to where you live, so
yeah,
he may reach out to you.
Would love to meet.
That'd be great. Hey, what was I saying? What were we saying? We were talking about the fact that you were eating sugar. There's two words, two sayings that drive me up a friggin' wall. Moderation.
Yeah.
I'm at the gym. I don't work out now as hard as I did 6 months ago. I was working out too hard. I was putting on a little muscle, and and I was looking maybe a little more muscular than I do now, but I was hurting myself. I was doing too hard for a 76-year-old guy. My shoulders were hurting a lot. My joints, I don't need to overdo it like that. I do a kinder, gentler routine. I still get plenty of exercise, and I got plenty of muscle for anything I need, as far as walking, push-ups, pull-ups, things like that. But in the gym there, invariably we get around to talking about all these, older guys, older people that are sick, and they think going to the gym is what they need to do. And they go to the gym and they sit on the machines and talk to each other. You know what I mean? And every hour they do a little of this. And you get started talking about diets, and when you first become a carnivore and it starts to work for you, man, you want to save the world, don't you? Don't you? You ever notice that? You want to save that. You want to go up to fat people. Hey, hi, I can help you. Yeah. And you learn really quick that nobody is interested in what you have to say. And they all, every one of them, have been so thoroughly brainwashed. And the two things they always come up with. Nah, I don't believe in those things. You need to have a balanced diet and everything in moderation. That's the secret. Everything in moderation. I can hear him now. Everything in moderation.
Oh man, I've heard it a million times myself.
And a balanced diet.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I do. So, you're 58 years old. You look 90. If that's what you do, something's
how's
wrong.
that working out for you?
Yeah, how's that working out for you? But they say these things because that's what they know, and you can't be smart ass with them. You can say, well, I'd be interested in the formula of hemlock to arsenic that you use to balance your diet.
Right. And why, Mitch, is this whole balance and moderation thing only an issue for humans, but the millions of other species on the planet don't have to come up with some artificial moderation or balance? A cow isn't eating some grass and then saying, I need to balance some other stuff in or I'm going to die. It's only us big brain humans that have this need for such variety. That's one of the things too that makes me kind of crazy now, being carnivore, walking through the grocery store and seeing, like, you go through the drink section, there's 1,000 drinks. You go to the ketchup section, there's 75 types of ketchup. Like, who are we that we need this much variety of ketchup? Like, it drives me insane. It's a really weird thing about humans, this incessant need for variety.
Well, it's got to be something new, and there's no shortage of it. You just walk down the breakfast cereal aisle. I got 87 flavors of Cheerios now, for God's sakes. And every one of them's got a big, hard, healthy sign.
Yeah. Fortified.
Fortified, yeah. Fortified.
Dog food for humans. And we think it's, I used to too. I go, oh, that's the good one. Breakfast is the most important meal of the day. I better grab that one. And it's literally dog food for humans. I wouldn't even feed it to my dog.
Well, we had it right when we talked about peasant food and slave food.
Yeah.
You don't think the pharaohs were eating stuff made out of wheat? They were eating animals. Do you think? And I tell people this, I hate to get into politics, but I will say this, is that there's a big push on now with this climate change stuff. Most people know where I fall on that argument, but it's still a big push. And the people who are pushing the hardest are the big globalists. The guys named Klaus, this or that, you know what I mean? The guys from Switzerland and the guys that fly around in private jets and have meetings that they call things like the G7 or the World Economic Forum. You got Bill Gates, you got all those kind of people. They're talking about climate change, and they're all flying halfway around the world in their private jets to get to this particular conference.
Right.
Every night at this conference, they have a dinner and a banquet. Okay? I would bet everything that I have that if I snuck into one of those banquets, I would not find them eating vegan food. I would find them eating the most expensive cuts of beef and beef Wellington and the biggest lobsters you've ever seen, drowned in butter. You would see them eating all the stuff that they want to keep us from eating. And that's the story of greed and corruption from the beginning.
Yeah.
If I can take it away from you, I can have it for myself. And that's what's running the world now. And it's really sad, and we've let it happen. So what do you do? What do you do? Do you hide? Sometimes if you get too noisy, you get canceled. And sometimes canceled means really canceled. As in, anybody seen Mitch lately? So you gotta be somewhat, discreet and careful about your message, because just look at what they're doing to some of the, well, Alex Jones, let's just use that name for one, or the Orange Man. You see, just saying that, I'm going to have half the people out there unsubscribing from my channel. But you see what happens when somebody is on the wrong side of getting canceled, and the lengths they'll go through to get rid of people. And here you and I are, and it could be dangerous because we're professing that people eat something, and this is the ridiculous part, that everybody knows causes cancer.
Yeah.
And heart disease, and you guys are out there telling people to eat meat and fat when everybody knows that that's deadly, and that you should be eating, and appended in front of the following words is always the word healthy. You should be eating the healthy whole grains and the healthy fruits and vegetables.
Yeah.
And they're 180 degrees wrong. And they're in power. They have power in this world. They sit in the government. They sit, and it's absolutely nuts. And they don't even know. That's the problem. They don't even know that they're wrong.
Right.
How do you educate? How do you, it's like running around trying to tell people the sky isn't blue. Don't believe your lying eyes. The sky is pink. I mean, everybody knows the sky is pink. Well, you do that long enough, pretty soon people are going to start thinking the sky is pink. The old fairy tale, the king's new clothes, the emperor's new clothes. You know that story.
Right. Yep.
Yeah. The king, little Johnny's the only one that knew the king was really naked. Everybody else was convinced the king had all these beautiful new clothes, and so everybody had to go along with that. And when they were asked what they thought of the king's new clothes, they had to say, "Oh, they're beautiful. They're the finest things I've ever seen." Little Johnny goes, "But he's naked." People are influenced, especially if there's some kind of retribution or fear. So we're stuck with that. We're stuck with that, and it does get frustrating because, like you said, and only two YouTubers can really get together and talk about the comments that we get and have a deep understanding of the lunacy and the cruelty that some of these people are able to put in writing on somebody's channel that they don't even know.
Yeah. Oh, it's crazy. I've gotten better at it. I don't know how you handle it now. I can't remember if I told you this before. If I get just a real crazy one, I used to be so tempted. Like, I got to say something back. A lot of times I'll get these ones, Mitch, they're like an essay. It's like a book. It's like 1,000 words or something. And I'll just write back and I'll do it's got to be lowercase. I'll just put the letter K. And that's it.
Well, that's one of the problems. You have a feed from YouTube that shows you the comments on your videos that you haven't answered.
Yeah.
But it doesn't show you comments that were a reply to a reply or in a thread on another comment. It only shows you the comments on the actual video itself. But it does send you an email. And I don't know how many you get a day, but I get a ton of them every day. Yeah. And it says so-and-so commented on your comment on so-and-so's comment. And you have to go into you have to hit reply, and it opens up the video, whatever video it happened to be, and then you got to go sleuth it out. And I was doing that, and I finally decided I can't do that anymore. It takes too much time. Right. Hundreds of them every day. Where was I going with this? I had a point I was trying to make, but what's that?
The crazy commenters.
Yeah. So, I just stopped with that, and I just told people, I said, look, I can't be digging through threads in 3-month-old videos trying to find where you said thank you, Mitch, so I could say you're welcome. Right. But we get the feeds. We get the feeds of these things, and we have to get them out of our feed. This is what I was trying to say. To get them out of our feed so they don't keep showing up. You either have to give it a heart where it says, and they get a notification that says, Homestead Hal loves your comment.
Yeah.
And I'll be damned if I'm going to let that happen with some of these comments. Or you have to type a reply.
Right.
So I didn't. I started finally doing what you just said. One letter. Okay.
That's
Okay.
great.
Okay.
Because some of these, it'll be like an essay that they've researched and they're quoting things and they spent like 2 hours writing.
Yeah.
I'm just like, okay, next.
Yeah, I call them novellas. I say these people write me novellas, and then if I don't read, I had one that was like 4 complete pages on my cell phone of comment, and in that was like 20 or 30 questions, one after another, like a machine gun. What do you do about this? And then what happens with that? And not questions about how anything productive. They wanted me to defend, my practices and what I do. In other words, it was accusatory questions. How do you live with yourself when you do this? How do you get away with saying that? And then when I basically didn't answer it, I got another nasty comment. How dare you not answer, or how dare you ignore me? Well, that's when that's when I discovered the hide the user from the channel button.
Yeah.
And I hate to do that. I do. But sometimes you just got to get rid of these people. I don't know. I don't know. It's not a very good essay on the human race at how at people's behavior. And I've noticed, I don't know about you, but the behavior is getting worse everywhere. And I attribute that to malnutrition. That's the only thing I think of, and the fact that people are literally losing their minds.
Yeah.
To malnutrition.
Yeah, 100%. That brain fog, stupor. Yeah. Well, speaking of comments, it looks like we got a couple. Let's see here real quick. You mind taking a few questions, Mitch?
No, sure. I've been trying to keep up with it. I got both chats going. The one from your channel over here, the one from my channel over here.
We got a couple new members. Victoria, Gracie, Joanna, Ronald. Thank you so much. Lisa had a question. I think earlier you were talking about a carbon steel pan. What's a carbon steel pan?
Okay. A carbon steel pan is made out of carbon steel. There's aluminum pans, there's cast iron pans, there's stainless steel pans, and there's pans made out of steel that has high carbon in it. A carbon steel pan is a little bit lighter than one of these big heavy cast iron pans, but still very heavy, but very smooth, not rough like cast iron, because it's not cast. It's made stamped from sheets of carbon steel, and high carbon steel holds heat very well. The downside to it is if you put it out in the rain, it would rust, so would a cast iron pan. But these things turned out to be very good for cooking, tremendous for cooking, because they get hot in a hurry and they hold heat incredibly well, as good as a cast iron pan. Half as heavy, but still very, very, very heavy. And you have to treat them and keep them like you do cast iron. You have to season them, which puts a polymerized coating. And it turned out that over the years, and these things have been around for hundreds of years, they have become the favorite frying pan of any professional chef, the best restaurants, because you can make the best food in a carbon steel pan. They last lifetimes. If you bought one today, you could pass it on to your great-great-grandchildren. That frying pan would still be in pristine shape. They're fabulous. They are so fabulous, and you season them with some kind of a fat or oil, and there's a lot of controversy about what the best is. But when you go into a big kitchen in the finest restaurants, that's all you'll see hanging up or carbon steel. And if you want to find out what they look like or anything, the one that I use is it's a Debayer, spelled like D-Beyer, D-E-B-E-Y-E-R. Just go on Amazon, type in D-Beyer, or just type in carbon steel pans, or just go to YouTube and type carbon steel pans, and you'll get 10,000 videos about how to cook with them, how to use them, where to buy them, reviews, this one's better than that one, how to season them. It's a big field. Somebody who doesn't have a lot to do with cooking would never have heard of it. So I hope that answers your question. I always tend to give long answers to short questions. Sorry.
That was a good one. Here's another question. Blue Sky, my wife is doing really bad with psych med withdrawal and brain damage, currently tapering off of antidepressant. Could carnivore really help her get better?
Well, I wish, Curry, you'll back me up on this. I wish there was a way that I could actually answer that question with any certainty that my answer would be correct. Even her own psychiatrist couldn't answer that question, and he knows everything about her. When I see questions like that, you can feel the desperation. You can feel the pain. Help me. We need help. And obviously they're not getting their help. And the only fallback that I can think of to a question like that would be something that might come out of Ken Berry's mouth, or what I think some of my old Jewish relatives might have said. When I said to them, "Do you think this will help?" And they would look at me and they'd go, "Couldn't hurt."
Right.
And that's the answer. That's the answer. That's the answer you'd get from Ken Berry. It couldn't make it any worse, and it might actually help.
Yeah.
And those are the what have you got to lose situations,
Right. Yeah. What else are you going to do? For me, I was one of the big reasons I'm passionate. The whole reason I'm doing this documentary was depression, anxiety. Most of my life, I was on every antidepressant. It helped me. That's not going to say it's going to help every single person. But one thing I would suggest is we have Dr. Georgia Eid is going to be in our documentary. And she recently launched this book, Change Your Diet, Change Your Mind. It's a fantastic book. It talks about changing your diet, a powerful plan to improve mood, overcome anxiety, and protect memory for a lifetime of optimal health. There's people in the book, depression, anxiety, schizophrenia, bipolar, PTSD. Again, it's not every single person that does this, it will help. But for me, I was so desperate. I was trying every medication. I would have given anything just to have another tool in the toolbox. So,
there's no doubt about it. Listen, Jonathan got a question. He wants to know what city your theater's in.
Montello. We're about 45 minutes north of Madison, Montello, Wisconsin.
Okay, I did my job. I'm reading the chat and I'm relaying messages now.
All right. Yeah, open invite too if he wants to come to the theater anytime. Our theater's really cool. I think I told you this last time, Mitch. I can't remember, but it goes back to 1859. It used to be an old opera house. It's just a single screen movie theater. So there's lots of history here. I'm always in the summertime, we're doing history tours all the time. So if he's kind of a history geek, it'd be kind of fun to show him some of that stuff too.
That's cool. That's cool. What else you got?
We've
had a lot of people.
For Mitch, what do your kids and friends think of you doing carnivore?
Well, I don't have any friends. Really, honestly, I tell all my viewers, I say, you're my friends. You guys are my friends. I don't have anything in common with most people. Anybody that knows me what an oddball I am, and my interests are way out of the league of what most people are normally interested in. And not that I'm any better than them. I'm just not interested in getting drunk and sitting around eating all the time and going to doctors. And that's, I live in a retirement community, and 95% of the people in here are on the way out, and most of them are 10, 15 years younger than me. It's sad. I can't talk to not a single one of them about carnivore because they don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear it. They think I'm crazy. All my friends that I did have in life are dead. I've got 2 kids who are in their early 50s, and they're both struggling with overweight and addiction. And I have had to adopt an attitude with them that not to push, because you do that with your kids or family or people that are close to you, they'll put you right out of their lives. They're, when you start hearing things from your kids like, "Look, Pop, I already know all that," you got to stop. And I have stopped with both of them because I have great relationship with my children, and I don't want to. I certainly don't want to do that. They both know what needs to be done. That's just it. Just having the knowledge to do carnivore is the easy part. Anybody can repeat after me. Eat meat. Okay, good. You now know how to do carnivore. That's it. It's getting past all of the psychological pain of giving up everything that in life that you think that gives you pleasure. And since the eating is attached to virtually every other thing we do for pleasure and entertainment, it's scary. It's scary to give that up, don't you think? It's scary when you tell people, you probably might not be able to go to too many ball games, or even if you go to the movies, all you're going to do is smell popcorn. Everybody around you is going to be eating candy, and you'll hear rustling cellophane, and you're going to smell the popcorn. They're going to be slurping down 20-ounce drinks full of sugar. You're going to want to watch the movies at home, and then the commercials come on.
Get you either way.
Everything revolves around food. You almost have to be, until you get over your addiction, until you've reached a point where there's just, you're unshakable now. You're disgusted by the thought of it. You feel sorry for the people doing the stuff that you used to die to do. You almost have to stay home and be by yourself and get rid of your family if they won't go along with you, because they're going to sabotage you. And it makes it so hard. And that's why I was so fortunate to live alone and not have to, because that's the problem with my kids. My daughter desperately wants to be carnivore. Her family, her husband and son are constant, not that they don't love her, but they don't think. So they'll go out to dinner, and what does her husband do? They'll order dessert and eat it right in cheesecake or whatever, and eat it right in front of her. She can't. That's it. It's maddening to those of us that know that if you can finally just get into it, it'll work for you. And I don't want to, I told both of my kids at one point, I said, please don't make me cry at your funerals. Mm. I mean, how do you make a more emotional plea to your children to do something that they need to do, because the path that they're on is going to make that a reality? Mm. And even that level of an appeal is not enough to overcome the power of their addictions. And when I see things like that happen, that's what convinced me exactly the magnitude of this problem that we have, trying to figure out different ways to make people understand that it is a problem, because right now nobody even categorizes carbohydrates and sugars in the same breath as alcohol, heroin, nicotine, caffeine, or any of the other drugs. And yet it's the strongest addiction of all of them, maybe all of them combined. I don't know. That's depressing.
Yeah.
Come on, Curry, cheer me up, man. Tell a joke.
Well, just to go dark for another second, I had the same conversation. I had the same conversation with my wife. Don't make me cry at your funeral. I thought we were going to grow old together. She, thankfully, today's day 99 carnivore for her, but it took. I'm gonna bring this back to Happy. It took her over a year before she decided. She started carnivore a long time ago. She fell off. It didn't work out. I never thought she would have done it again. So, hoping for your children, Mitch. You planted a seed. Maybe they'll come around. Maybe they'll surprise you. I never would have thought my wife would have done it again. And she's like I said, one day shy of 100 days right now. So who knows what'll happen? Hopefully,
My son does pretty good most of the time, but I don't want to talk about this, but there are reasons why his family has habits that he keeps getting dragged into, and but he knows. I can't. There's nothing I can tell him. He knows. Listen, I'm his father. I've been harping on him for years and years and years. So and he's a smart kid. He definitely knows. My daughter is just a helpless carb addict. Helpless, and she desperately wants to do it. She's every couple of weeks she starts it again, but something happens and doesn't take much to trigger her. But she's at a point now where I can't. I mean, all I can do is help her if she asks for it.
Right.
And there's nothing else I can do. Otherwise, I'll alienate her. She will refuse to answer the phone because that just makes it harder. She knows that I have. It's not like she thinks I don't have her interests at heart. She knows that. But anyway, I'm not the only one that's facing that issue. I think most of us that finally figure this out end up being an island in a sea full of people that think we're out of our friggin' minds. I mean, and we joke about it, but it's a sad truth because it so goes against everything that everybody else now considers the truth and conventional wisdom.
Right.
It's good if you can get through without doubting yourself sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. All right.
Yeah.
He asks, what is Mitch's favorite cut of beef, and how does he prepare it?
Oh, I'm pretty much in there with everybody else. Give me a good ribeye with a big back cap on it. I like, my favorite way to cook it is sous vide. I sous vide the thing for 2 hours at 128 degrees, and that's medium rare. And I sear it in butter in a 500 plus degree carbon steel pan for about a minute aside. And
Get me hungry.
oh man, that's my favorite. That's my favorite cut of beef. I like burger. I only really eat steak 2 to 3 times a week. My mainstay is bacon and eggs.
Yep.
I buy the Wright's bacon at Sam's Club, that extra thick stuff. Yeah.
Yep.
Hickory smoked. And I eat 4 to 5 slices, depending on how big they are a day, about a half a pound of bacon and 5 or 6 eggs. Okay. Every day, 6 days a week. 1 day a week, I may eat something. I may skip the bacon and eggs and eat something else, eat some fish or chicken wings or something instead. And I eat beef every day. But I alternate like a steak and ground beef. So most days I'll have bacon and eggs and either steak or ground beef. And I'm perfectly happy with that. And it tastes fabulous to me. And it's satisfying and delicious to me. And I don't get bored with it. And this is something that carnivores tell you, but regular people just can't believe. How can you live eating the same thing every day? Well, we're built to live that way. We're supposed to live that way. When the caveman came home, honey, what's for dinner? She didn't give him a menu of 37 different things. She hit him over the head and said, what do you think's for dinner? The same animal we had every night last week. That's right. It. This is your food. We have just so trashed what we're actually mentally and physiologically supposed to be doing. We've outsmarted ourselves.
Right.
We've invented a life that isn't natural for this animal. And we may adapt to it. That's the thing about evolution. We may, if this keeps up and some of us survive, our whole physiology may once again switch back to prioritizing sugar. Okay. Our ancestors at one time did. Our direct ancestors were not meat eaters. We're descendants of herbivores. It took millions of years for our physiology to change to become carnivores because that's what was available to keep us alive. When it gets to the point where there's only sugar available to keep us alive, a certain group of humans will probably if they can manage to survive for hundreds of thousands of years or million years, the pathways that work better metabolizing sugar will make changes, and we might become herbivores again. Nothing is written in stone. It's like people telling you what's normal sea level. What's normal for sea level? They keep telling us, oh, the sea level is going to rise. Well, I got news for you. 15,000 years ago, the sea level was hundreds of feet lower than it is now because all the water was tied up in an ice cap during the last ice age. And as that ice cap is melting, as we come out of that ice age, and you can blame it on any man-made climate nonsense you want, but we are coming out of an ice age. And the only thing that can happen when you come out of an ice age is things warm up some. The oceans that water is going to go back into the oceans. The sea level in 100,000 years may be 100 feet higher than it is now. So if you look at the sea level from 100,000 years ago to 100,000 years in the future, you pick the place along that curve that you tell me is normal. There is no normal. There is only right now because everything is changing. And so is the physiology of the living things on this planet, constantly adapting. It happens so slowly and takes so long, and we as humans don't have comprehension of those lengths of time for that much to happen, that it seems impossible to us. We only know that 10 years ago, the beach had, a 16th inch less water than it has now. That's all we know. We don't know. We can't think that 500,000 years is not really a long time in geological time. That's why I've been so fascinated. That's why I study all this history and all this evolutionary science and geological history. I love what I've learned. It's tremendous. Sometimes I spit out facts that people are astounded at about the development of life and when it happened, about how what happened when the dinosaurs got killed. And how do we know exactly? I know all that science, and it all adds up. And it all leads to the fact that carnivore is the way, according to Ken Berry. That's his saying. Carnivore is the way.
Carnivore is the way. Hey, we got D's gifted 5 Old Guy Carnivore memberships. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's David. Thank you, David. I appreciate that. Very nice of you.
And hey, just real quick, anyone watching from my channel, check out Old Guy Carnivore. Go subscribe if you're not. You probably already are, but if you're not, go subscribe. People always ask me, what do I watch? I watch Old Guy Carnivore. I've been watching you this whole time, so I'm a fan. I watch Old Guy
great.
Carnivore. We have a shared friend, Kent Carnivore, Lee Copus. I watch.
Lee is great. Lee he's a sweetheart too, and
I couldn't even. It'll probably take me a couple hours to list the rest of the stuff I watch, but I watch a lot of YouTube. But definitely would recommend watching Old Guy Carnivore for sure.
Well, you got 313 watching on your channel.
Nice.
I've got 186 watching on mine. Not bad for a little shit like me.
It's awesome.
I just hit 33,000 subscribers today.
Nice. Congratulations.
Yeah. And but I got a great base group of people. These people have become my great friends. I have the little private community. We get together on Thursday night on a private live stream. I give them links. They all come in.
Nice.
Just great people. And we're going to have to put a meetup together.
Yeah.
Where we all get together. At least.
Have you done any meetups yet, Mitch?
No, the closest I came to a meetup was a year ago in Orlando when I went to the Keto Summit.
Okay.
And I'm going to go again this year in August. Ken Berry was there last year.
I just went to the one in Austin, Hack Your Health. It was my first.
Oh, yeah?
Well, I've done a couple meetups, but that was my first conference meetup. And I'm hooked. Like you were saying earlier, we're living in a world with people addicted to sugar, and we're the weird ones. But when you go to a group like that, and it's all like-minded individuals, carnivore, and there's that energy. Carnivores have this energy. I don't know what it is, but second chance at life. I don't know what it is, but there's some crazy energy there when you get in a group with all those people. I left there. I was like, I want to do this like every weekend. More meetups for sure. I think Hack Your Health is in Tampa next year.
Oh, I'd go if it was in Tampa, I'd go. I'm going to Orlando. It's the first week in August this year. Ken Berry's not going to be there this year. He's pulling back from a lot of these things. But I met Annette Bosworth there last year, and I had just started my carnivore YouTube thing. I had one video out, and I went there, and I ran into Ken Berry and Nisha, okay? And I corralled him and introduced myself. And I told him, the first question out of my mouth to him was, does the world need one more carnivore YouTuber? And he spent some time convincing me that, yes, I needed to do this. And he left a comment on my first video.
Wait, can I guess?
What?
Carnivore is the way?
Exactly. Yeah. And awesome. and I pinned it. Carnivore is the way. He didn't subscribe, though. I'll kill him when I see him. But he has since left comments on my videos, and a couple months ago, he and Nisha gave me a shout out on their Monday night live stream, and it shocked the pants off me. Do you remember that? Did you see that?
I didn't see that. No, that's awesome though.
They were talking about older people going on carnivore, and Nisha says, "Well, what about old man carnivore?" She got the name wrong, but what about old man carnivore? Mitch. And Ken, oh yeah, he's great. And she goes, I just love him, she says.
Nice.
I said, wow. And then Ken says, yeah, but, watch out. He'll tell you exactly what he thinks. He ain't a skier. He says, he ain't a scared. He'll tell you exactly. I got the biggest kick out of that. So I talked about it. I talked about it on my walk a couple of days later about my big shout out but something, I've never communicated with him. I've never emailed any of these guys. I've never talked to Chafee or Ken or Sean Baker or Ken Berry. I just figure if they think I can help them, or they want to include me in something, like even old people can do whatever, I'll do anything for those guys, but I'm not going to chase them.
Right. For
the benefit of my own channel. You know what I mean? I just don't want to do that. And I respect the hell out of him. And after you and we got along so great, at least 6-7 months ago. And the fact that we lost touch and haven't even communicated until now again just shows you that even when you meet people that could become best friends, this life that we're living of doing the YouTube stuff is so hectic and so busy and so distracting that every day the next really important thing seems to always come along. And I can imagine how busy. I keep saying, shit, one of these days I ought to just come up there and see you up there where you are.
Anytime.
And it just never
we got
happens.
A little Airbnb on our property too, so I got a place for you to stay. You can come to the movie theater.
That'd be cool.
Seriously, I mean that. I'm not just talking. You have an open invite anytime.
Thank you. I'd love to do that. I'd even drive up, because I haven't been on a long road trip, and I like these. Although I don't know anymore, it's so aggravating to drive in.
Right. Well, we're doing. I think in October we're trying to put together the next meetup too. So I'll definitely tell you about that if we do it. But that'd be cool too. Doing a big carnivore meetup in Wisconsin here at some point. But yeah, I can't believe it's been 6 months. The YouTube thing has been busy, but I talk about the documentary. We filmed 26 people, and that's what's really been taking a toll on me, because I don't know, people don't know this, but the whole documentary is a passion project. I'm never going to make a penny off of it. We've brought in a bunch of donations. All the donations have been going to travel and filming. So I still have a full-time job. So I have my full-time job, still trying to do YouTube, keep the momentum going. I enjoy doing it. It's keeping excitement going for the documentary. But then on top of it, the documentary. So it's been a whirlwind, crazy last couple months for sure. I barely keeping my head above water. But
I imagine. Well, you're doing great, man. And how much longer do you think before it's finished?
It's a question I get asked a lot. The tricky part is this. Initially, when we set out, like with Bill Knott, we're going to film these people for 1 year. And Bill is coming up on 1 year in August. But there's other individuals. And then since then, we have found several people. We filmed 26 people. We found several people that have already completed a year, and they've documented it really well. They've got before and after pictures and videos that they can present a good argument. So long story short, we're hoping for like summer of next year, optimistically speaking. The tricky part with answering that is so many people are coming out of the woodwork that have these incredible stories. Like I never thought we would have cancer in this. And then I met Jeff DeProsperous. He has stage 4 cancer. He's absolutely thriving as a carnivore. Absolutely. Energizer bunny. The guy's got so much energy. So people keep coming out of the woodwork. So I always hesitate to give a firm date, but that's what we're aiming for. But after what we just filmed in Austin, we filmed 14 people there, bringing the total to 26. And looking at it all, I'm like, we should just let's go. Let's just start editing and be done with it. But there's so many more stories coming up. There's a couple gaps. Is the reason I'm hesitating is type 2 diabetes. We have examples for all these different health types: obesity, depression, anxiety, heart disease. Type 2 diabetes, we're still trying to get some really good stories filmed for that. That's a big one. And then women's health, fertility. So anyone watching, if you've got an incredible story overcoming type 2 diabetes or fertility issues, let me know. Anyone can email me anytime, homesteadhow@gmail.com. But those are the ones we're still trying to wrap up. Next month, I'm filming Dr. Ovadia in Chicago.
Oh, no kidding. Okay.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Because one other big thing, just real quick, Mitch, since we spoke 6 months ago, one of my biggest issues besides depression and anxiety was I had an irregular heartbeat since birth, and I had congestive heart failure. My ejection fraction was, this is all in my medical records too, by the way. My ejection fraction was 44. Well, on Carnivore, I felt so much better. I finally went in about 2 months ago to get everything tested, and my irregular heartbeat that I had since birth is normal, which is just crazy to me. This is all in my medical records. And my congestive heart failure went away. I was 44 ejection fraction. I'm perfectly normal right now. My doctor even wrote in my notes, he's like, you have no more evidence of cardiomyopathy. Your congestive heart failure is gone. And he's like, you're good. You're good.
Yeah, but you got to stop eating that meat because it's killing you. Yeah. And here,
he didn't ask me those follow-up questions either, by the way.
You need to take the statin too. Don't forget, I know you're perfectly healthy and all your problems went away, but I don't care about that. Your LDL is too high.
You're joking, but you're nailing it right on the head, Mitch, because that's exactly what happened. I had all of this work done. I told the doctor, I'm like, I'm down 100 pounds since my heaviest. I'm no longer suicidally depressed. I was on 15 different antidepressants. I stopped snoring. My arthritis is gone. I had gout in my foot. They wanted to do surgery. It's all gone. I'm like, I am absolutely thriving, and my congestive heart failure reversed, and my irregular heartbeat is better. I did all of that. I had my blood work done. Everything came back perfect. My cholesterol was higher than the standard American diet numbers. He said exactly what you said. You should go back on a regular diet, he said.
Yeah, because I'm a little concerned. And I hear that story in comments every day.
Yeah.
People are besides themselves. And the more we learn about LDL, and the more we listen to guys like Ben Bickman and David Diamond and those guys that just, Malcolm Kendrick, I'm talking about. These guys know, they are experts. They know stuff that these other doctors never dreamt of. And even the new guys like Nick Norwitz, with the Oreo cookie beating the statins in lowering your cholesterol, it was a not a joke, but it was funny as hell. Their theory of the lipid energy model, him and Dave Feldman, and I had an opportunity in Orlando last year to sit down with Dave Feldman, and we talked for probably a total of a couple of hours about all the citizen science study, that he's doing, all the cholesterol work that he's doing. He's a tremendous guy, and he's hooked up with Nick Norwitz. And they're doing the lean mass hyper responder stuff right now dealing with these people who have LDLs of 500, 600, 700 that have no coronary plaque, no buildup, no nothing. Healthiest people on the planet Earth. And even these guys go to their doctors and their doctors say, I'm really concerned about your high LDL and I think you should be taking a statin. And they can explain exactly why our cholesterol is so high, why it's so predictably high. We're burning fat. We're trafficking fat around the body. LDL is not even cholesterol. LDL is a lipoprotein that carries cholesterol as well as other things. They have got it so screwed up and so wrong, all because of one Ansel Keys, who back in the 50s came up with the diet hard hypothesis that saturated fat and red meat is what's causing people to have heart attacks. Back in the day when they weren't having any heart attacks.
Right.
Dwight Eisenhower had a heart attack because he smoked like 4 or 5 packs a day, but that got everybody upset and opened the door for the opportunists to come in and with their brought to you by the sugar industry message, and here we are, and reality doesn't even play a part in what people believe anymore.
Right.
And it certainly doesn't in politics, and it doesn't in the politics of diet. My mind's made up. Don't confuse me with facts. Come on.
Right.
But the facts are, this is what I hear time and time again. People go in, hey doc, I'm not a diabetic anymore. I was a diabetic on insulin for 20 years and my A1C is now, is now 5.3. I'm not a diabetic anymore. All my pain went away. My gut has cleared up. I've lost all this weight. My hair's growing back. I'm interested. I have a sex life again. Well, all that's well and good, but your cholesterol is awfully high, and I'm a little concerned about that. So I'm going to write you a prescription right here for a statin.
Right.
See you in 6 months.
Yeah.
That's the typical. And I said something that kind of took people by surprise in one of my videos. I made a statement. I said, when is the last time that you ever went to any doctor where he asked you, what do you eat?
Yeah.
What do you eat? They will ask you if you own a gun. They do.
Yeah.
And they write it down in your records. Do you own a gun? Do you own a firearm? Is it locked up? They do not ask, what do you eat? It's irrelevant to them, and it is the only important thing that they actually need to ask you. And based on what you say, they can prescribe a diet that will fix all that stuff, cure your illnesses, and get you off all those drugs, which is contrary to their financial interests, so it never happens. But you ask people, what's the last time a doctor says, what's your diet? What do you eat? They don't. It's mind-boggling, don't you think?
It's insane. But they'll ask me when I take my dog to the vet. The vet will ask me what the dog ate. But yeah, we don't ask humans. It's absolutely crazy. Every ailment, issue, every single thing I had wrong with me was 100% tied to what I was eating, and no one ever asked me.
Most of it is. Almost all crime. Now they're really beginning to tie cancer.
Yeah.
As well.
Yeah, I really believe that. That was another one. We got back from Boston a month or two ago. We interviewed Professor Thomas Seyfried.
Oh man, I would love to meet that guy.
Oh, he's amazing. We got to go in his lab and film him in his lab and several people that are working in his lab. But he's been talking about cancer as a metabolic disease for like 30 years now. And I'm not putting words in his mouth, but the biggest thing that he told me was most people get cancer from chronic inflammation. And in my brain, most people are chronically inflamed, myself included, from the foods we're eating. We're all eating foods that are highly inflammatory. Cancer rates coincidentally are all going up at the same rate. We're eating more and more of this chronically inflaming food and sugars and seed oils and garbage.
And that's the same thing that causes heart disease.
Yeah.
And we all know the story of the fire and the fireman. That's an analogy that's used very often with cholesterol.
Yeah.
And they blame cholesterol because when they did autopsies after people died and had the heart disease, they always found cholesterol at the scene of the occlusion or clot or whatever it was that caused the heart attack. So their logic was, it must be the cholesterol, because every time we look after a heart attack, we find cholesterol there. And the real answer is that cholesterol is used as part of the immune system as a repair, like a spackle, to repair the damage in an artery wall. It's used to repair it and smooth it over, and that damage is caused by inflammation. So you have inflammation. The inflammation causes damage. The body sends the cholesterol to the site to fix it. Doesn't work and you die, and they blame the cholesterol. And that's like saying, every time there's a fire, damn, we find firemen there.
Yeah.
We find firemen when's the last time you've been to a fire where there were no firemen?
Right.
It's the firemen that are causing the fires.
Yeah.
And that's the analogy. And that's what the cholesterol is getting blamed for causing the problem, when it's there to try and save the thing.
Right.
And cholesterol, when you start taking cholesterol away from a human being, you're taking away the precursor for most of our hormones, for most of our vitamins. You're taking away the precursor for testosterone, which is why there's such a huge fertility problem in men.
Yep.
And women with PCOS from low estrogen. You're taking away the stuff that our cell walls is built out of. You're taking away the stuff that the myelin sheaths that insulate the neurons in our brains, and the fats. You're taking away everything we're built of that we need by artificially lowering cholesterol, and wondering why people are getting so sick.
Yeah. It's just like everything else we're finding out in this world, everything's completely backwards. My whole life, I was taught to fear cholesterol. And I really believe not only myself, but most of humanity's deficient. Everything changed. My hormone, when I started eating fatty meat, my hormones got balanced, my sleep got better, my immune system got stronger, my testosterone went up, like everything improved. But yeah, we're told our whole lives to avoid that stuff. It's all backwards.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I did that with my doctor. I had never had my testosterone measured. I never worried about it. I never had a problem in that department. I never had any ED or any of that stuff. Everything always worked for me because I was low carb most of the time. But when my LDL was like 340 or 350 and my doctor's panicking, and I joke with her at the VA, I go in there and I say, I saw my blood test. One or the other of us today is going to have a heart attack. It's either going to be you because you saw my numbers, or it's going to be me because you're right. Mm-hmm. And I say to her, just for grins, order a testosterone and a C-reactive protein on me, because you've never done those tests. A C-reactive protein is a measure of inflammation, okay? And, of course, testosterone is testosterone. And so she said, sure, they'll do anything. It's the VA, it's government. They don't care. So she ordered them, and I get the test results. My CRP was at the bottom end of the scale, which means very, very, very low inflammation. My total testosterone was 729. Do you know what that number means? 729. The average American male, 30-year-old American male in this country now, has a testosterone of 300. Mm. My son is on testosterone replacement, TRT.
Yeah.
And it's all caused by alcohol and sugar. And here comes Pop 70-something years old, 76 years old when I had the blood test. 2.5 times.
Nice.
And my doctor, she just kind of rolled her eyes. She's come around. She's not, I have it good. She's not a doctor. She's a nurse practitioner at the VA. So she can do whatever a doctor does. She can write a prescription. She can order any test. Okay. But she doesn't have the ego and the arrogance of the average doctor with the white coat, you know? And she's known me long enough, and she's talked to me that she is absolutely convinced that I know so much more about medicine, biochemistry, and everything than she does, that when I go to see her, it's usually, I just want to get some blood tests just for my own edification. I don't need any advice on anything. And she usually asks me a question about something, and I end up giving her a lecture until they come knocking at the door telling her she's got 6 people waiting out there. So I kind of enjoy my visit with her once a year.
Nice.
Once a year. And sadly, here's the thing, sadly, I know she's not watching this because I wouldn't want to hurt her feelings. But sadly, when I first saw her about 8 years ago, I thought she was probably in her early 40s, and I thought she was just hot as hell. I thought she was really good looking. She was a nice body. Not that anything would have happened, but I found her incredibly attractive. The last time that I was in there to see her, she is probably 50 pounds heavier than she was the first time, and she looks like a 60-year-old. And I found her completely unattractive in 8 years. And that's sad.
Yeah.
That's sad because I keep telling her, she keeps, every year I go in there, I get better and better and seemingly younger. And I keep telling her what I'm doing, and they still all think I'm crazy. They still all think, what are you going to do?
Right.
You know what time it is there, buddy? We've been at this for 2 hours and 15 minutes.
Yeah, I got to wrap it up too. I got to get home and got to make some steaks. I think we got 2 more quick ones here. Kerry, huge fan of yours. We'd love to have you on the podcast. Sure, shoot me an email, homesteadhow@gmail.com. And then we got Boyd. I think it's free or a discount if you're a veteran. You're talking about the movie theater. Veterans are free forever at Montello Theater. My wife and I started this initiative a couple months ago. Veterans will never pay for a ticket here. You come in, you show your veteran's ID, you get a free admission forever for as long as we run it. And then speaking of nurse practitioners, Davina Lang, NP, $10 super chat. Thank you. And then there's one more here. I work in an emergency department, and many of the oncologists, rheumatologists, and primary care physicians are recommending low carb, heavy meat diet. Wow,
that's fabulous. And you're starting to hear more and more and more of that, and that really is great to hear. That really is great to hear. Look, somebody's got to be listening to this stuff,
right?
Somebody has got to be listening. There are just a ton of people talking about carnivore.
Yeah,
so
it's growing like crazy.
It has to. My channel's growing comfortably for me. I'm very, very, pleased with that. I'm working like crazy, but you know what that's like.
Right.
But it's a passion. It's a passion, and I deeply believe in it.
Likewise, too. Well, I've heard, too, recently someone saying that carnivore is trending more popular in terms of search volume on Google Trends than keto lately. I haven't gone to verify that, but I heard someone say that the other day. I thought, wow, that's incredible. So people are searching for it now more than ever.
It should. I've probably lost a lot of followers or potential subscribers because I don't advocate for keto in the least bit. Not for a carb addict.
Right.
And since 90% of the people out there who have a problem are carb addicts.
Yep.
All keto does is say to an alcoholic, for example, just limit your alcohol to like a half an ounce a week and you'll be
moderate your addiction.
Yeah, moderate. You cannot. You have to abstain. And abstain means abstain And that means 0 carbs. And actually, realistically, what's the difference? A
Yep.
serving of Brussels sprouts and broccoli. Ooh, ugh, you
Gets
know.
me sick thinking about it. Mushy
Yeah,
broccoli.
eat an extra slice. Eat an extra slice of bacon, for God's sakes. You know?
Yeah. Thank us. I totally agree. I'm on the same page with that too. I had one video I did like 2 years ago on keto where I was kind of hyping up keto, and I've since removed it because about 3 or 4 months after that video, I gained all my weight back again because I could never maintain keto. I really believe carnivore, as Dr. Berry says, carnivore is the way.
And I think he believes it. I think he's in a, I don't want to say touchy situation, but he has to tread carefully because his family
Yeah.
and Nisha kind of coined the ketovore thing.
Right.
And I know she's not going to go pure carnivore, and he doesn't really either. But I think a lot of what he does, he can control, and he does to keep the peace in the family. And that's what you have to do, unfortunately, if you're not living alone. When you're living alone, you're king of the castle. You know, that stuff doesn't come in here, period. End of story. And sometimes that's the only way some of us, it's why they send people who are drug addicts to institutions and lock them away for 30 days in a program. Because you can't get over it if you're out there in the world surrounded by the shit you're addicted to. You just can't do it. So what's different about a sugar addiction is that people don't even consider it a real addiction.
Yeah. And it's in everything. It's everywhere. Everything
Every-
everywhere all at once.
Your life revolves around it. You don't even know it. You don't even know it. Well, listen, we had a great turnout today. We had a good time.
Yeah, we definitely have to do this again and not let 6 months go by before we do another one for sure.
I think so. I mean, I would. I don't know. I mean, you're busy, but you're probably busier than me. But I would, if you're interested, I would schedule a regular every once a month or once every 2 months and put it on the calendar. So
Let's do it.
we make sure we do it. All right, we'll get together and talk about that. But I think that we managed to get a lot of, between the two of us, we get a lot of information out there that I think is good. I think it's good and hopefully helpful.
We're on such the same wavelength too. There's so many things you said tonight where I was just thinking the exact same thing, which is pretty awesome. And maybe we do one in the future too. I don't know if with our buddy Lee. I've been meaning to get on with him again too. I absolutely love Lee Copa's Kent Carnivore.
Yeah. But we have to do it more often. I mean, because it's so easy to just forget about it. You're every day you're off into some other different direction.
Let's definitely do it. Let's put it on the calendar and get another one going. I'm all for it.
All right. How often do you want to do these things? I'll put you right on the spot here.
I'd say let's do another one in like 2 months.
Okay. So let's do it the last Sunday in August. Last Sunday in August.
Yes.
Whatever that is. I'm going to write down on this high tech. This is a high tech note-taking technology right here.
I just did the same thing.
Last Sunday.
And if the same time works for you, that works
It
for
does.
me.
Perfect. 5:15, and I'll sit on pens and needles as we're at 5:14. You haven't showed up yet.
Right.
5:15
we got the
p.m.
movie at 4, so we get the whole movie turned over, and then I come down, and it works perfect still.
Okay, we'll do that, and I'll look forward to it in that way, and I'll hold you to it.
I'm in. I look forward to it too. Thank you so much, Mitch. Thank
All
you,
right,
everyone,
my friend.
for joining us. I really appreciate the super chats, people, memberships, all the nice comments, and appreciate you, Mitch. It's been a lot of fun. Talk to you again soon. Looking forward to it.
Okay, take care, everybody.
All right. Bye.